Hello. So
Hello. So we just spoke a lot about the Cyber Manifesto, and you miss it. But now we
it's too
we are
bad
talking. We are talking now. Now was saying something.
that I'm going to the. It's called Silicon Friend Camp or something like that.
Silicon friend. Silicon friend.
Silicon Friend Camp. Yeah. I don't know.
Wow. I don't like the. I don't like why they put the silicon in front.
Well, I have no idea. I mean,
An
they
irony. That's
call
an
it
irony. That's an irony to Silicon being
exactly.
ironic.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they took a photo of the mountains and they say this is a Silicon Valley, but let's see.
Oh yes. I okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like what you said, which you missed, but yeah, that's
Not you,
something.
Jorge. Not you,
But
Jorge.
yeah,
Not
what
you,
Jorge
Jorge.
said,
But
that the viewers missed. Yeah, or you can be Jorge as well as a viewer. Uh, I don't know what I would say. No, that exactly like what you said is something I would be interested. I mean, that's kind of the big problem also because I think most of us, it's weird. Most of the people in the group are from Europe, um, white, I think, and then gathering and then talk about robots. That like, what is it? Like robots and AI, and you know, like obviously
yeah.
there's like it's confrontation or something. Like, maybe that's a bit
Yeah. Yeah.
too
Yeah.
much,
Yeah.
but I always feel it, and I mean, it's also the narrative of this whole thing as Silicon Friend Camp talking about robots in the mountains, proposed by white people, proposed by people living in Linz, which is something in the digital art. Is they kind of have this clear standpoint where they want to start with, and like they have the background of whatever that is happening there, whatever they have seen, they have been involved. And then, I'm Japanese and I'm not kind of in the digital art scene, I would say. I'm an outsider, let's say. So that's something. I mean, it's nice that other Japanese friend will be there. Also, there's one participant. I think she's Brazilian, working in the UK, which I think is very interesting in the group because I think maybe there's another Chinese girl, but yeah, like that's like only like a few out of 15 people or something is from outside uh, Europe, Eurocentric world. So let's see how it's going to happen. I don't want to say anything more than that, but that's obviously like
Before
in the.
Naoto gets kicked out of the the camp silicon. So he just arrived tomorrow. Like, hey, by the way, we watched your chat yesterday, and I think very inappropriate what you say.
Or the other option is after the camp I will be baptized. Like
Oh,
that could be an
yeah.
option.
Yeah, but I was thinking because after I have this when like 1 week ago when I was thinking about like gender and this identity of being male or being female, and then at some point, I mean, it's in regards to the same thing. Like there are some topics that said, I think it's in regards also to Haraways. Like basically what I shared with Naoto is like what it makes the Cyber Manifesto interesting back in time, and I think it still is by now, is the approach of speaking about something very serious, which in that case was with an ironic tone, to not define a position where one speaks with or from the truth, and then we go back to when we speak about the truth, and which is something that in Western politics or in philosophy you're is very present, like who has the absolute truth, or I know, you don't know, you shut up because I know more than you, and this kind of things. And then I think in the practice, then what I was thinking is how, I mean, how can one in a way, mention a topic without hijacking, without making the, let's say, the practice dense. When in the practice we speak about, like, in a way is not a political statement, or we try to not make it heavy in that sense, the practice itself, but it's a different space. Nevertheless, like, i think I think it's just, if one is grounded of what is happening in its own life, I think these questions will pass there. Like this, if it's for some reason I have some question in those days about gender, somehow it should be reflected in my practice, without the need to stop and start speaking about Judith Butler or whatever is it that I need to speak, or you know what I mean.
But this
And I'm
is
saying,
like,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, I totally understand. And I think that's what we do. But this is hard. Um, I don't know why.
no,
Because
yeah,
the thing is, like, do people do that? Like, we do it. But I don't know, like, if other people are doing something like that, not being like explicit about something, but somehow manifests through, but through what? I mean, what Jorge said, to me, it totally makes sense, because that's exactly how I feel as well during practice. I mean, not during practice, but reflecting in the practices. But is that something that people actually understand, or does it have to be understood?
yeah. I just know, I have this, I remember I have this conversation with one of the dancers of Melting Pot some time ago when we finished some project in April. And then the guy's from Brazil. So I think he moved to Europe maybe 2 years ago. And Luis, if you see this, which I doubted, hello. uh, Luis is an actor from Brazil, and he's building his career he's based in Barcelona, and he's building his career in Europe. So at some point he was asking me, like, how you do, or how, yeah, how you do the application process, or how you're dealing with these things here. And for what he showed me something, like, automatically, what I thought, like, it was not working in terms of efficiency, basically, in terms of, like, give me money, institution give me money, select me because I need the money, is that his performance, what he's doing was, socially, it has a message, it was a performance, so it has very strong message about, I guess, his context as Brazilian. And then right away, basically, I say something that it was not working, because of that. What I realized in practical terms,
Yeah.
what I realized during the conversation was that somehow, and was like, opening mind for me, because it was that in some way in my path here in Europe for 12 years, I realized that I domesticate myself, which is normal, let's say, like, you can call it, just you just get used to the system, how it works here. But in the other way also, I think I just domesticate myself, in the sense of, I know, let's say, in Colombia or in Brazil, like, most of the performance, they have a heavy charge in political things, because there are things there that are happening. So the people need to speak about these things. Uh, but then when you put it, like, those things in the context here, in European context, in a way, or in a way, basically, is, I think people don't want to get confronted with these things. It's not really the way how it works things here. You do it in a more sophisticated way, or let's say, even try, instead of, like, doing a political speech, I will deconstruct the thing in a very high level, approach to making art. That was the way who I was thinking when I said to him, basically, I thought, like,
Mm.
you can do the same, but you have to deconstruct it more, because otherwise, basically, white people in Europe get uncomfortable with the message that you are saying. And although in terms of effectiveness is true, because I think he will have a better chance to get selected, which is, this is about in terms of efficiency and money. And the other side is that is is what the fuck this means, like, what, so it's this is effectiveness, but the other one is like, do you have to always, let's say, if you're in a wide context or in Europe, do you have always to domesticate yourself to not make feel uncomfortable the white person? And yeah, and that's the base of colonialism, you know, like when you speak, when there are jokes in between. I learned that also in practice, in safe space like in PAF, when there are some jokes, then normally you will joke about it. So, I don't know, say a racist jokes. I remember a friend of mine at some point saying something about Spain or colonial something in a conversation in PAF, and I remember that I laughed, but I have the reflection to slow down and say, wait, now in this moment I can actually reflect and say this was not right. And that's that gesture is when we actually just we perpetuate colonialism, but it's just really deep in our system. It's just difficult to catch
Yeah,
because we perpetuate the thing.
yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't know how I can bring this to a constructive discussion. But that's why, like, I always say, white male is toxic because, I mean, I think I've said this a few times in the chat as well, but just to start with, being being white, being white male is like already toxic, and you cannot just say, I think, yeah, we said something like this before, but you cannot just do something good for others, because I'm privileged to do something for others. It's the worst thing that can be really toxic. So I think if someone's privileged, we have to start from the standpoint that I am toxic actually, and then from there, what can I do? We cannot just say that if you're black, if you're people of color, you should do this way, that way. You should I mean, but I mean, not saying about your case, because that's you're both from Latin America, and it's more about, how do I say.
No, I think I agree with you, like absolutely. Like when is this was very clear at the beginning when we start doing this asymmetry thing in PAF, like the realization of one's privilege, because we all have privilege in different levels. And then it's just, if you are basically, at some point you are ready to be accountable, or basically to live part of your privilege, because then you yeah, in order to give a space for other ones to access that privilege in different ways.
And I think that was at Node, Caroline Sinders. In her presentation, she was saying that she talks about feminism, but she's white and she cannot talk about like black women, for example. And that's something that she really acknowledges. And that's also, I say this like about white male, but also I'm privileged as male, or privileged that I'm from Japan, obviously. So that always think about. I mean, but other thing I wanted to talk about your story with the dancer from Melting Pot is, I
Wait,
think,
can you wait for a second? I need to come back
yeah.
for a second.
So I have to do a solo again, I guess. Um, Today I don't have my nails painted blue, but I just have a little bit of glitter, which is hard to focus. It's kind of nice. I removed my nail polish this morning, and then I kind of liked it like this, but also I'm a bit shy to go out without anything on my nails. So it's a bit of it's humble, but it's actually you can see it on the camera. Maybe because of the reflection. It's supposed to be a bit blue, but the one I bought in Hong Kong, but it's a brand from Japan, but they say it's made in France, which I kind of feel so funny. And what is it called? It's called Nailholic. I think the name sounds really funny. And the one interesting thing about Japanese, or maybe Asian in general, but the nail polish is their brush is like so thin. Like here, what you get probably like with one stroke, I can paint the whole nail, but from the one in Japan, I have to do it like 3 times. Okay.
Yes, please. Yeah, go back to, you said there was something else you want to
Yeah,
refer
yeah.
to that
So
story.
I think what's important with, let's say, like writing an application is like the idea of sandbox, because you don't want to write as yourself. Then that becomes really toxic to yourself, like you said. Um, so I think I always try to do a bit like, it's not like, yeah, it's a practice. Like when I write in the sandbox and not to mix up with my identity, because that could kill yourself.
Yeah. But then it's still like, so I completely, yeah, I understand. But I think what is interesting, I think from what we are talking here is that it's not there is one thing of the other one, you know, is, but it's just to have the reflection. For instance, in that conversation, I just realized uh that I'm just function like what I said in my words is like I just get domesticated in a way, like
Mm,
to not do things in certain way how I would have done it if I will still be in Colombia. I
mm,
think what is interesting, and I think that's my I'm curious of that since the last few months, I guess, or maybe the last year, is how can I still that's more of me like with things that happens in Colombia, or more basically mm, I guess more I feel more comfortable with my own identities, I think, as male, if one's one, or with all the things that comes with my identities, is that still I think there should be space in what I'm doing to slowly, I mean, to just give space for basically a space to take me out of the sandbox slowly, you know, and then just try things out. I remember, for instance, when we have at some point we were writing this with Joanna Chicago, and then I mentioned at some point that I felt that we should give it a little bit more of a space to speak from one's identities, or like yeah. And then the idea was exactly not to hijack the space, but just to give the space to have reflection of it, and not just go in automatic mode to do what we know it should be done to get what we are searching, in that case, a
mm.
grant.
Yeah, I that was really nice, because if I write, it's always the same tone that, I know that I'm good at writing grant applications, I would say. I mean, yeah, let's say I'm good. But that also is because I don't, it's not that I don't talk about myself, but yeah, like I adapted my writing style to what they want, basically. And that's not something that come from myself, but it's gradually trying to, I don't know, but also like I think how I write fits well sometimes. So it's not like completely like, I force myself to write in a certain way that probably they will like it. But still, that is true to a certain extent. And it's
Yeah.
nice. And then I think what's more important is to explore different ways of writing, because also that, opens different collaborations. And like with you, it's, at first it was, for me, it was really hard to write with you, because I don't know what's the common ground for us, like where to start, how to write.
Mhm.
But since that grant application, which failed, but I think it was really good exercise.
Yeah, I think that this we have been through this exercise a few times, and we now more or less we know what is the style that the one and the other one will write, and yeah,
Kind of.
kind of. But also we share like text, for instance, like yeah, you saw also my magazine and stuff like. So then we have shared these things. We know more or less what is in. We know what are we talking about, like in which boundaries are we are circumvening, because basically we are just going in yeah, we are circumvening the same topics. But what I was thinking is when you were saying is in regards to Vienna, because we go to Vienna to the impulse dance to the dog the it, is that what I found interesting in this conversation is that so that like we said that more or less like we if we have 90 minutes that we would like to use maybe half an hour or something like that to talk in a way. That's what we just said. Is everything can change, but that's what we just said. um, but then I was thinking in this idea of talking, you know, how seem if we, going back to what we were just saying, you know, like how to keep a tone that it gives space to become odd at some time. So like that, say that for instance, if you just try to speak in a way that people understand, um, and also I guess in a context like that, speaking about identities or things like that are it will be more possible said because people are more used to like hearing things about yeah performative things, which deal more with identities. So in that space, I guess people will be more prompt to hear of these topics, and less about I guess technological stuff, you know. um, then what I'm thinking that might be interesting is like find a tone that is just flat, but then sometimes for no reason, it's just kind of a choreography for for some reason, it start explaining how Hydra works, you know, something that it gets super complex for, you know, like if you're in a conference and somebody's speaking something that you understand, and for some reason from nowhere, that person starts just going very in depth of something that you have no idea, that like for I don't know, say 2 minutes or just for a few seconds, that in a way just make your brain thinking what is just happening, you know. but but then it's just so it passes so fast, uh, that you don't really have the reflex to think about what it happened. So I'm thinking basically that that the chat could be interesting to have like as a flat line something, but in between we can start just basically hijacking the conversation for 1 minute 2 minutes and they come back to a flat line, uh, which I think makes more dynamic the conversation. I don't know if that it somehow it makes sense what I'm saying.
Um, I think I get the point. Now it's like this is public chat, so it's like a public brainstorming for the sessions, but
This
it's
is
nice, I
public
think.
brainstorming. Yes.
And we'll have public rehearsal and whatever. I was thinking, like, should we like should we really talk from the top, or should we do it, like practice it? Because I'm not good at explaining things.
No, but you know, actually, it could be that what I was thinking right now. It could be the other way. Wait, we could be that we just do and then we talk.
I think that's more interesting.
Uh, what?
I think that's more interesting.
That's more interesting than just talk and then do.
Because
Uh,
because the thing is, if we talk, like they're
what?
like people don't understand. I mean,
Because
not
they
that
have no
they're not
reference.
there. Yeah, exactly.
There is no reference. No, absolutely. No, I think that you're right. Yes, I guess. And also the other thing that I was thinking is because I think like let's say and I have been thinking of that, is that what might be actually interesting from a personal point of view, and I think as a yeah, is that is what is your story with best practices, you know, what is my story with best practices, is this a different one? And I think that's when I think when I present my story in the school, it makes a lot of sense because it was my view on that. So basically that I start building an installation, it didn't work because there was COVID, and at some time at the same time I was already working with you, I just realized Shazam, this is gonna be the final work, it's gonna be best practices. So, and that was my story with the practice in that context. And um, so in somehow I think that could be interesting to share a bit of like what is the practice for how was the practice, how is the practice. um Maybe
Yeah,
we should do this exercise maybe once we are together in Vienna, and maybe as a public chat, basically.
yeah,
That could be definitely a good way to share this thing,
yeah.
and time it, you know, like are we talking for 2 hours? Oh, not working.
We can do it for 6 hours. No, but I told you, like in one of the seminars I did was just to show the video, let's show a reel that is long. And then after that, I collected questions, and then I started like building story from the questions, and it kind of worked well. Also, like I think I liked when I was not like answering like from one question to another, but I mean like a conversation, but I collected questions at first because then it gives time to digest the
There is so
question.
much to digest. There is
It's
so
not
much.
something that it's like running and running if you just answer to one question to another, but then if you collect them and then let it sit and ferment, and then we can start talking about something, and then if they come up with other questions they can talk about it again. But we can explore with different
Yeah. But this is, you're saying it's
ideas.
interesting because like this is then you're bringing things like that are new in what I was thinking what to do. And one thing there is for sure, and then I actually that I experienced when I did my presentation was the the you need time to digest this thing.
Yeah,
And it's so dense, man. I mean, for us we are doing this for 1 year, so it's just fun to do, right?
yeah, yeah.
But
And
there's
here
so
it
much.
here is what it is, and then
And
here's
we are
Dr.
just like
Dupek,
that,
and
right?
there's
We don't care. We don't care.
Marskanninga,
We just go. We just go like, yeah, something will happen. It will be cool. It will be fine. If we fail, it will be fine. Like, I think
and
after,
1 hour, that's it.
yeah, yeah, and voila, c'est ça.
Bye. See you next time.
Bye bye. Enjoy. Take the stickers. Take the sticker. Hashtag was perfect. And then people are just, what the fuck just happened? These people. So, but no, I think that as part of that, I think could be interesting to take this as I see it as a choreography in the sense of like this understanding as structuring something, not with hard things, but just like understanding one of the elements for sure is that this pausa thing, and understanding also what I think is cool of the public that I didn't have when I did my presentation is that it's people who come from dance field. So that's something that might be interesting to explore, you know,
Yeah,
like maybe
totally.
show something, say we are doing a practice, but maybe we just stop it for a second and then we just give some space for just a stop and then just keep on doing. I yes, just acknowledging that there is embodiment to be processed. uh yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun for sure. But I mean, like, I think as a whole thing, like, we can just think about it as a practice, not like strict timed, strictly planned thing, but we just make a sandbox for this
Yeah.
thing, and then we
Voila,
see.
and that's what I define. But it's but that's what I call that is close to the idea of the choreographic thing with the elements, basically.
Yeah,
What are the elements that we are gonna take that into account? I'm going crazy trying to imagine how the fuck are we gonna deal with the because with Naoto we are used to working in distance, and now we're gonna be in the stage. Like, now we're gonna be in the same space. So I'm in my head, I'm going bonkers, thinking like how are we gonna do this? How are we gonna what is gonna happen? Um, because I have like I just have the memory of hearing Daniel or seeing Daniel and Lisa when they were because they work. in the distances, and I think when they were trying to work together on the stage, it just didn't work.
Yeah, they did
uh,
like residency and ended up working in the separate rooms, like performing in separate rooms.
and that just and that's just silly, you know, like that's just that's just strange.
Oh, that's an option, right?
But yeah, that's an option. That's always absolutely that's an option. But I think we just should try to like go to the arsenal or go or you know some places and start just maybe trying to do a practice where you are when you where you are in the space. You like I think an example of that, we did that in notes at the end of the performance because we were just crazy and things were not working, I don't know. Then we just start jumping, and then I we were separated by some wall, and then at some point we just start running to Naoto's computer, or Naoto was going to my computer, and then we were just doing that. I think somehow um yeah, something where the this we never were confronting. Somebody was asking me this when I was sharing the format with some of the Andres friends, and it was very the person was asking, so what is the space, you know, like, and for me it's just, yeah, the space is just the green key or some other function to give this possibility to blend your image on my background and that space, voila, c'est ça. But the thing is, if you are there, it's not so easy because like then I have to, or once it's like I deny that you are in my space, you know, then it's just like the same, but I'm here. And then I just decided with somehow I will put it you in my background, or if in somehow I just acknowledge that you are in the same space. We haven't dealt with this thing of the space.
Right. We'll see.
We actually we can just start from like we can just share also it's not that we are supposed to do a performance. This is not, the project is not intended to have one performance, and the project itself is a practice itself.
Exactly. It's one of the first ones I wrote, I think. Like one of the, the main description.
I think like
Anyways.
yeah, but the thing that works always the best for me, that is when I share of this, because I use some of these words, then is that for me is very clear the idea like the practice is a clear conversation between technologies and bodies. And but I always, so that's because that sentence, and then I was explaining to a friend like the idea of that is a queer thing is because it's not dance at the service of technology. So say it is like when I was doing my first semester using the Kinect on Notch, so just using the dance on the service of the 3D space because it's cool, and it's not technology on dance piece to make so it's not video mapping of the dance piece to make the dance look cooler, which is in that sense it is functional or for technology or for dance. But that's why it's queer. It's something that it cannot be one only thing, but and it stays constantly jumping between one thing and the other one.
Okay, and what is it?
Is something that is in between.
Do
Is
you think
something
it's
that is,
actually it's in between, or it's something else?
I guess in practical terms will be in between, but I guess I would like to see it. I think it's something else.
No.
That's the way how I define it. That is like the way how I said that this is in a problem is that I assumed that there was the problem of the virtualization of the dance, and then because of the dance as and the embodied experience suffer from being classes and performances becoming Zoom calls through videos, then the dance suffer because of the medium, in this case the video. So in this case the medium becomes a problem, so the video becomes a problem while when you try to put dance or classes through video. So the medium is the problem itself. So in that way how I present the my solution or my approach to propose something was to blend the digital platforms technology and body to propose a new medium, and I call it a new art medium, because then I see, and then for me the simple way is to see it, that is a new way to like a new like a new epistemic understanding of the body in relation to the video. So still the channel in a way is the video, to make it simple, because my problem is the video. The video is the problem. But then you can go more in depth and say like, yeah, but maybe is the internet, maybe it's the web. The way how I put it in simple terms is just the video, because at the end
Mm.
is, from what I see, is something that it will be recorded, and at some point it will be streamed. So that's a different topic, but at the core is body recorded somehow. And so then I said is a new art medium, not only a medium, but it's an art medium that is not dance and is not video, is
Mm. Mm.
something in between. But it's still, so then it's a new thing. It's something in between dance and video, and it becomes something new. And yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's really nice, and it's not from my writing. um, no, no, no. I was thinking like I was watching performance from Floor. I think well, I think they recorded uh, before, and then they showed it. I think yesterday. I don't know. Um, so it's like a live coding performance. Like she does live code with a computer, and the partner is doing the sound stuff with controllers and pads and whatever, like electronic stuff. What was interesting to me was the camera is so dominant. I don't know if it's because of the practices I do or it's because of how it was framed, but like someone's holding a camera and showing the electronics or computer or the keyboard or whatever, and then sometimes the cut changes to the frontal or from the side, but that was so dominant, and I would say it would be more interesting if they could control it, because I didn't have a feeling that I was watching a performance.
The
It's just
recording of the performance itself.
yeah, it's a recording of the performance, but because I don't know how they edited it, but the camera was so strong. I mean, also the visual was kind of, let's say, ambient. It's not like changing, like,
Yeah, I saw. Is this thing that it was more like blue?
yeah,
Yeah, I saw it, and I answered something to her. I think that was very cool. I thought that was very nice. I said to her that I thought, because it's more, yeah, we talk about this in the past, that it was something there is not so many changes, so you can follow actually in a
mm,
mesmerizing way.
mm.
Sorry, yeah, but so you were saying that.
That's why, like, I thought, like, I'm just like visually, it's about where I'm watching, not about the content of the performance.
So as
That's
a totality,
yeah,
yeah, I yeah, because there is something that I think I have this feeling with the live coding raves or live performances, live coding, how it's called, live coding, like
algorithm, like
yeah,
yeah,
algo
live
raves.
coding, yeah.
What I don't like is, or what I feel I don't like, no, I will say like I feel uncomfortable with it, is that is the showcasing of still somebody in front, and there is of this very, is part of the stage that in a way it seems that is not very flexible. It's just this there is people on the stage and there's the visuals happening. So then it's basically, let's say the format is very straightforward, so over and over more or less is the same. Somebody goes in front let's say the stage design will be very similar, if you want to say.
Yeah, it's an
uh,
aquarium.
yeah, but then I think that will be that, maybe I guess that has a reason why it was like that at some point. But I think in order to become something else, then I think the person, the human, has to become less strong somehow, because as an audience, I don't know, like I feel as an audience, if I'm seeing that or just in the video, I see there's a lot of focus, there's a lot of mesmerizing in what they do with the computer, you know, like how cool can how can they do this, you know? So yeah, there is something where like the human is not so human somehow. It's not
Human
that I
is also
expect
human.
maybe
Yeah, yeah,
it's not that I'm expecting them to dance or something, but I guess there is I'm missing some motion or
yeah. It's like
some.
a instrumented, or well, not even. I mean, it's boring. Like I hate those live coding performances from the beginning. Like when I started watching those, like and it's just boring because I mean, you cannot change a lot with a code.
No,
That's
no,
one
no.
thing. And then also if the person is, just coding, then it's, what am I supposed to watch? I watch their hands. If they have nails painted, that's interesting. But then, what is it really? Like, I mean, it's so funny that as a medium, like as a concept, I think it's super interesting because you're changing something with the code, which is like I like that idea, but as a how it's framed in the performance, like who's gonna watch it really? I'm sorry if you're a live coder. I'm very sorry, but I have to say it's so boring. Like,
Oh, but like what I, yeah, the way how I feel from that is that yeah, I think is I think it's very similar like when you said like analogy when somebody's playing classical music. The difference is that with classical music, then we are because then it's just at some you get yeah you get something more excited or less excited. So I guess it happens something similar with the computer as instrument. Um, but I don't know. I think it's just like there is a dehumanization there in a way. Yeah, I basically what you said like would be nice if at some point maybe just they paint their nails or if anything whatever something that it just refreshes the thing that it makes the experience more human.
this actually reminds me. I think I never told this story, but 3 years ago I did residency in Korea, and at the end we did like a performance at the open house, and I was working with a DJ, but like she makes sound, and I was making visuals with processing. By the way, processing. Um, and what did I want to say? Oh yeah, so I made like really complex like timeline and visuals just with the code, but not like live coding, but I was like controlling the MIDI controller. And I don't know, like I think it's like 20 minutes, and like doing something for 20 minutes with code is so hard. But I managed to do it. First part was like geometric things, like lines and stuff. And I was so, confident with what I'm doing. But I think the most of like it was like open studio, and like most of the audience is not like artists, but they're like local people just coming to like a festival thing. And at the time, like I had like half of the performance with the camera, and I was showing my face and doing some face morphing, like face tracking and like morphing and stuff like that. And as soon as I showed my face on the big screen, like people just started like laughing, and that was the best moment. I was like, I coded like hours and hours preparing this processing whatever shit that no one appreciates, and as soon as I show my face, that's like the best moment. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
fuck this. Like, but I think that was really good that like it
But
happened, because now I know that I just show myself, and that's the interesting thing.
yeah, 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 exactly, because that's what I mentioned, what I was mentioning with like the dehumanization of the thing. Like even let's say if the performance anyway presents something that it has the magic of code of this kind of thing and this feeling that is that's cool, whatever. But if the people cannot relate to the work, it's just like masturbation somehow. Like is that
I
and you're just
mean,
alone.
yeah,
So I think that's what it's like the good, super good example. Like you put the face, people have face, and then I just, I mean, there is not too much to think. There is empathy happening there right away.
no.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's a good lesson, I
Let's
would
do
say.
so in the impulse down. We're gonna do a live coding rave.
But
Be
just like
ready.
quietly like coding.
Yeah, yeah. We just quiet. We go there, put some headphones.
At last 1 minute, like we show ourselves and start dancing. I don't know.
Yes, I take my leggings with me and my Reeboks.
Great. Um, yeah. Should we close something around here? I don't know. Like,
Yeah, I don't know. Wait, let's close here and then we speak
yeah.
about practical stuff. Okay.
Okay. So whatever, please. Thank
Whatever,
you,
father.
and see you in Vienna.
And see you in Vienna. And they will be so cool because there are these social events. I will be so looking forward for dancing. Go
Yeah,
dancing.
that sounds the
Join best
best.
practice dancing.
Ciao.